Hello, my beautiful friends. Namaste. I'm Jill Loftus of Nuit Astrology. Welcome to your planetary energy forecast for the week of August the 25th, 2025. We are finishing up the month of August and we are still in the kind of beginnings of that new moon energy. Now, I do want to point out, remember that this new moon that we just had over the weekend, it's going to be bookended by another new moon in September. But September has the added volatility of both a solar and lunar eclipse. So this week is kind of the more smooth week, but it does have its tension points. So let's discuss those. First of all, we start the week with that sun newly in Virgo, but still in a bit of tension with the sign of Uranus, or Uranus in the sign of Gemini. So Uranus in Gemini is bringing in technology, transportation, our conversations, our own mind, our nervous system. This is new and we are still kind of finding out how to negotiate what it's like to have it there. Now, it's the first time that we're experiencing it coming into a difficult angle with the sun in Virgo. And I got to tell you, the Virgo personality does not like the Uranian type of vibe. It does not like sudden shocking things. It does not like to go off script. It does not like to be in a position of, well, let's just find out, okay? Let's just be open to possibility. But that's what this is encouraging us to do. And so even though that aspect kind of perfected over the week, or over the weekend, I'm still saying that energy is still in play as we begin the week. So believe that sudden shocking things are in fact in your best interest. Stay adaptable and just be aware that things might not go super smooth. August the 25th is also the day that Mercury comes out of the shadow zone, and you're going to be saying, Jill, you told me Mercury came out of the shadow zone, but when we still have this Sun Uranus happening, we still might have some difficulties, some crazy weather. There could be technological breakthroughs. There could be sudden shocking issues with technology and transport. We could have some real issues related to health or health and healing or food, because Virgo is all about what we our own health and growing food and things like that. And remember, Virgo is an earth sign. It is about the earth, and it is also about self-empowerment in many ways. It's also how we help others. It's how we feel that sense of being needed in the world. So interesting couple of days. Now, augmenting that somewhat tense energy between the Sun and Uranus is Venus. Now, Venus is a big player this week. She is having interactions with all of the outer planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. This is an awful lot for Venus to be involved in, especially when she's finishing up her time in Cancer. She's going to begin to feel these energies. She's going to absorb them. She's going to feel a little uncertainty. She's going to feel maybe even some fear. Some fear could be building in that energy. And then she's going to move into Leo. And she moves into Leo at 12:27 p.m. Eastern on the 25th. Venus in Leo is completely new energy. It is from water to fire. And she is passionate. She's empowered. She wants to tell you how she really sees things and help you to lead you in her direction. She wants to be both beautiful and intelligent. She wants to have fun and also be creative. She has this unique leadership quality. Venus in Leo is a beautiful placement. But even though she's sending gorgeous energy over to Saturn in Aries and to Neptune in Aries, it's still a lot coming at her. She's also connecting beautifully with just sextile energy, but beautifully with Uranus, which makes magical synchronistic things happen. But she is coming into an opposition. She is standing across the sky from Pluto, the principle of regeneration, death, and rebirth. Pluto represents the underworld, manipulation, coercion, abuse, exploitation. These are some of the things that Pluto does. And Pluto also represents the masses. So I think you might see in the world some kind of ganging up on a powerful woman or a beautiful woman. So be sure that you're not a part of the pylon in that, like, where you're, everyone loves to hate certain people. Be cautious about that. It also brings in this idea of, women who are leaders or in leadership roles, having the masses somewhat in an argument or disagreement with them, especially philosophically. Pluto in Aquarius is going to have really new ideas, new information that spreads like wildfire, that spreads like a virus, okay? So it's going to be an interesting week to kind of observe those. So I do want you to be a little bit more careful, cautious, particularly in the life if you've experienced manipulation, interactions with people who tend to have a darker association, or even violent events or things like that. I want you to be extra careful, cautious about your environs, what you're vibrating, right? Try to really stay grounded, and just be careful of difficult people and situations. The best defense is a good offense as we begin the week. Now, I will say that the energies lighten up once we get to midweek and beyond. Part of that support is the fact that Jupiter in the sign of Cancer is still sending good energy. North node in Pisces trine and sextile to the south node in Virgo. And that energy is building all the way through the week. And in fact, that really doesn't come to its fullest fruition until next week. So in the Cancerian area of life, Jupiter is there spreading little pockets of joy, little pockets of optimism, of hopefulness, of wonderful moments with family. It's a very empowered energy to have Jupiter in Cancer. And so, really try to take advantage of some of the blessings that are happening in that area of life where you might also be feeling tension in some of the other areas of life, especially the Taurans and the Librans this week with all that energy coming at Venus so strongly. I want you to be a little bit more careful. And then Leos in general, the Sun receiving those difficult energies, and then Venus and Leo receiving those difficult energies. Keep in mind also this week that we have Mercury moving out of that shadow on the 25th and kind of not really interacting with others. So Mercury is moving in, through the end of Leo and really has a little bit of an attitude and a mission and really doesn't have to answer to anybody else. Mars in Libra is also not really interacting with anybody else. And so the Mars in Libra definitely accentuates a sense of indecisiveness or wanting things to be more calm, sometimes putting other people first. But just do watch that those two energies are kind of free to do what they would like to do. So you might be feeling more empowered. You might be feeling like you have more ideas. All of the outer planets are still in that lovely configuration. They are beautifully connected. This, again, accelerates change. It simply means we are glimpsing the future day by day right now. Yes, they will almost all, not all, but almost all retrograde back into their previous signs. We'll have a little taste of the past. We'll have a little testing period in the fall where we're like, oh, well, did I resolve that? Did I make the right decision? If you did, you're going to feel on track. If you didn't, dramatic events will force you to get on track so that you are ready for next year and next spring. I want to talk a little bit about the moon void this week because we have a really big one. Adjust this for your time zone. On the 26th, the moon will void at 10:06 p.m. until the 27th at 9:27 p.m. Eastern. So if you're in Eastern time, all day on the 27th, the moon is void. That is also the day that we have the exact opposition between Pluto and Venus. Now, I actually think that kind of helps us. Why? Well, because if there is a dramatic event, we can perhaps think of it as not being something that will be repeated over and over, because Pluto has a bit of a reputation as a replicator. Pluto has this kind of drumbeat, kind of karmic repercussions that don't just unfold in one event, okay? So if something does occur, and we'll be keeping an eye on that, there might not be that continuation, right, if it occurs during the moon void, so that could be useful. Uranus in Gemini also really gets into a much stronger connection with Neptune this week. So inspiration, make sure you're finding time to, what's your creative process? Do you go for a walk and then do you write? Do you spend time alone in meditation? Do you, what is it that you really love to make? Your work process. Maybe you like to be more collaborative and you're going to schedule a big meeting and everybody's going to talk and throw out ideas. With that Uranian energy connecting so nicely with Venus and with the Neptune, and also a little touch of Saturn in there, and the Pluto, it really is time to create space in the mind for anything being possible. I know looking at the world right now can it's beyond depressing, okay? It feels like just all is in chaos. But what it's doing is showing us what does not work and how we need to fix it. And we have to be open to magical, unbelievable possibilities, maybe even solutions that we have not thought of yet. We have to do, as Kriyananda used to say, think the new thought. All right. Now, I've got another moon void. It's going to be mostly for other time zones, the 29th at 8:47 p.m. until the 30th at 10:04 a.m. Eastern, so keep that in mind. And then at the end of the week, we have a lovely connection from Mercury in Leo over to Chiron in Aries, and so there's a little bit of accountability for the things that have hurt us in the past that we can really engage with at the end of the week. So, for the light of this week, I'm loving the Venus connecting to the outer planets, but the shadow, of course, is that opposition to Pluto. Also, the Jupiter with the nodes, very beneficial. Just be aware of false optimism overdoing something. It's a real opportunity placement. And loving Mercury coming out of shadow. Stay tuned for the Celtic Cross. Hello, beautiful friends. Namaste. Let's take a look at the Celtic Cross. For this week's reading, I am going to focus on Venus, love, and money. Because Venus is in such a intriguing, both blessed and difficult place this week. And I have so many friends and clients in major moments where they're trying to make big decisions about relationships, big decisions about what's important to them, big decisions financially. So I'm just going to tune into the general meaning of Venus this week and how we as a collective can work with this energy. We have to watch out for that tricky, sticky Pluto, but we've got some other beautiful things happening to her. So she's also going to move into Leo. Rawr. So let's see what the reading is for the collective for this Venus transit of the week. All right, first card is you, my dear. King of Cups. So the King of Cups is the more sensitive king. He's the king who's a better listener, who's a little bit more about, tuning into his psychic abilities or things that are unsaid or, just really tuned in emotionally. He's a much more sensitive king. And so this is you. You are still having to be in this position of authority, of making decisions, of taking charge, but it would behoove you to use your sensitivities and understandings. What is crossing you is the King of Swords, the logical king. So even though, yes, you're feeling that you are attuned to, the information that's coming in that you might be receiving psychically or astrally or through the dream life or just, body language and things like that, the King of Swords says, okay, but also we have to be super straightforward. We have to be rational and fact-based. Now, in the past, Four of Cups, we have allowed things to unfold. We've been kind of trying to trust the process a little bit more. In the future, well, there's some conflict here. This Venus-Pluto is it's going to be an issue. Now, remember, this card, Five of Wands, is a 5, so we can escalate or de-escalate this conflict energy. And this energy can also be interior to us, within ourselves, or exterior to us, but be aware. Requires a bit of a defensive posture. Now, crowning thoughts of the Nine of Swords, clearly there's some stressors this week. Clearly. Could, again, be financial, could be moral, could be, what matters to you, could be self-esteem issues, could be love issues or partnership issues. And subconsciously, though, the Fool, we realize we have a part to play in this. We realize that if something doesn't work out, there could be something better for us. We have to be open to possibilities and understand our role as manifestors. Advice, Tower. Man, Tower is a little bit harsh. It's sudden change. We have to be prepared for this change. Outside influence, Ace of Wands, and realize that this change will initiate a new beginning in some way. And I'm really feeling this Ace of Wands as the Aries part of our chart, whereupon Saturn and Neptune are hanging out. What do we want to happen? What do you want to happen? Chariot. For God's sakes, move on with it, right? We might be tired of licking our battle wounds. We might be just ready to say, hey, come on, I need to know a direction. I've got to pick a direction here. So, and the outcome, the Strength card. This is lovely because it's Leo, right? There she is, taming the lion through all the beautiful attributes of the divine feminine. Gentleness, patience, kindness, empathy. This is a compassionate placement and also a powerful one. Now, as the reader's fan goes along, we're going to look at Ten of Swords. Yeah, this is not going to feel very comfortable when it ends, but that's okay. It's freeing us up for something better. Empress, so the energy of birth and creation, also creativity, ruled by Leo. And then we have a Nine of Cups, abundance, so happiness, good news. And finally, Page of Wands, initiating something new. So, very powerfully configured for the week. It looks like we need to be very wise. Understand there will be some worries or concerns. We've got to really tap into this Fool energy. And this is kind of interesting. But I just did the Celtic Cross for next week and the lunar eclipse. And guess what comes up as a very important card in that reading? The Fool. So, all right. I hope you have a marvelous week, my friends. Comment below if you found this helpful. Namaste. Bye.